Good morning. Welcome to your Tuesday edition of Cup of Cyber. Today, Illy Coffee's wrapped up in Virginia because we are sitting here in Virginia, I guess. Good reason to be wrapped up in Virginia. The topic of today is a NIST control, as always on a Tuesday. We'll be working through the NIST catalog for quite some time, I'm sure. Today we'll be talking about AC7. If you know what AC7 is, you'll know it's successful or unsuccessful logon attempts. So if you want to learn more, diving into AC7, join us this morning for our Cup of Cyber. A happy morning to you. Welcome to your probably maybe warmer than normal February 18th. Today, National Drink Wine Day. Probably a good reason to drink wine because it's the 18th. I don't know. As you know, we normally follow the beer trail. So we do Wheel of Beer on this channel. So maybe we need to do Wheel of Wine today. Jump in and check out a wine or something. But enjoy a bottle of wine today. I guess it happens the 18th every month, or 18th every year, 18th of February. The fact of the day that they have found wine bottles all the way back to 325 BC, or AD, I guess. BC, has to be BC. Crazy, I'll look that up. That was your maybe not so useful fact of the day. Old wine bottles anyways. Maybe it was 325 AD. I'll have to look that up. So, anyways, outside the cup of wine. You're not here for your cup of wine, so let's jump into the control and just get started what you came here for. Today we're talking about AC7 Unsuccessful logon attempts. Working our way through the AC or access control family. Quite a ways to go, but this one is important if we're trying to protect from brute force attacks. So a lot of times we'll have logon areas both on our operating systems and our applications, even those facing the web or the internet. And we got to try to provide some protection from people just guessing passwords, guessing multiple passwords over and over again. And obviously this is automated. So we can use an automated system and we can just throw millions of passwords at a system. And eventually, if we do it long enough, we will hit the right password and open the system up. So this is a way to provide protection against people brute forcing passwords on your information system or your application, right? So, I don't know why we're control enhancements already, but anyways, the information system enforces a limit of, and again, we always have these square brackets. So we start with square brackets. We have to define the assignment. So how many do we want how many passwords do we want people to put in before this control kicks in, right? So we have to decide. A lot of times organizations are going to zero in on something like 3 or 5, but that's going to be totally up to your organization, and it's going to be dependent on your risk appetite. So let's say 3. So the organization enforces a limit of 3 consecutive invalid logon attempts by the user during and then we have another assignment, organizationally defined time period. Again, fairly standard is 15 minutes. So we can say, if we throw those in, if we throw 3 and 15 into our assignments, we can say the organization enforces a limit of 3 consecutive invalid logon attempts by a user during a 15-minute period, right? So that's the first part of our control. And then the organization, then we've got a giant block of selections and assignments. And if you see, the first part is a selection, right? So we're going to say after 3 invalid logon attempts, then automatically we have to do a selection. So the first part of this, we look at it. The selection is either locks the account node for, and then there's within this is a nested assignment an organizationally defined time period, locks the account until released by the administrator, delays the next logon prompt according to, and then there's another assignment, organizationally defined delayed algorithm. So there's 3 selections we can make here. And I know it's kind of lumped up. They threw all that stuff together and it's kind of in a big block there. So the first, the 3 selections we do is, do we lock the account for a time period? Do we lock the account until it's delayed or until it's released by an administrator? Or do we delay the next logon prompt according to an algorithm, right? So those are 3 choices. Once that account's locked, do we just leave it locked for, say, 15 minutes? Do we leave it locked until an administrator logs the user back in until they unlock the account, essentially? Or do we have an algorithm? And these are all important, right? So a lot of organizations will say, on normal systems, we're going to lock the account for 15 minutes, and then so you have to wait. If you do 3 invalid logins, you have to wait 15 minutes, then you can try logging it again. And this really does prevent those brute force attacks, because normally somebody's going to put an automated tool in there. It's going to go 3 times, it's going to lock for 15 minutes. Then it's going to go 3 more times, and it's going to lock for 15 minutes. It's going to make it hard to get in. So we can say, most places can say, okay, we're going to lock it for 15 minutes, and then we'll unlock it, let people try 3 more times. Hopefully, that's going to be enough. On more sensitive systems, maybe we're going to say it's going to be locked until an administrator comes in and unlocks the account. Now, obviously, for a user, this is going to be more difficult because they can't use that information system until it's unlocked. And if an administrator's not around until maybe the next day, that's going to keep somebody off the system for a long time, and that's going to obviously hurt productivity. But if this is a sensitive system, it's probably important to do that. So we got to balance things. And then the last one was, we can have a logarithm. We can have some type of logarithm that says, okay, and you've probably seen these. The first time you do your unsuccessful logins, let's say you do 3, and then it says something like, your account has been locked for 5 minutes, right? You wait 5 minutes, and then you try 3 more, and now it's going to say, hey, this is 3 followed by 3 invalid logins followed by 3 invalid logins. Something fishy is going on here. Now it's going to maybe delay that login for 15 minutes. And then you do 3 more, and it go, okay, now it's a half hour. So it changes. It's going to be a logarithm. So we're saying the system automatically does one of these things when the maximum number of unsuccessful attempts is exceeded. So in the first part of this, we said, if you try logging in unsuccessfully 3 times, then something's gonna happen, right? Something is gonna happen. So it's 3 times within a specific amount of time. That's what we defined in A. And then part B, we said what happens. So part A is what's going on, and then part B is what happens, right? We do have those 2 are mixed up. So we do have there's supplemental guidance. So supplemental guidance is normally, and I kind of threw me off because normally you don't go over supplemental guidance, but this is a very short control. So supplemental guidance for this one is, the control applies regardless of whether the logon occurs via local or network connection. Due to the potential for denial of service, automatically lockouts initiated by the information system are usually temporary and automatically release after a predetermined time period established by the organization. If a delay algorithm is selected, organizations may choose to employ different algorithms for different information system components based on the capabilities of those components. Responses to unsuccessful logon attempts may be implemented at both the operating system and application level. And I would say, yeah, do them both on the operating system and the application level, if you can, right? Look at my buttons are all messed up this morning. Let me see if I can't figure out. Okay, related controls. Let's get this stuff off the screen, right? Okay. So now that we've forced our way through the first part, my Stream Deck is acting funky today. So Um, got through the main control, and that's AC7. So we always talk about the enhancements as well. So AC7 Enhancement 1 is unsuccessful logon attempts, automatic account lock, right? So it's been withdrawn. We put it into the actual AC7 control. It's been added to AC7, and that's when we made one of the selections. Maybe it automatically locks the account until the administrator unlocks it, or until the time frame is exceeded, or until that a logarithm kicks in, right? So that used to be an enhancement. Now it's part of the base control, right? We do have enhancement 2. So AC7 Enhancement 2, unsuccessful logon attempts, purge or wipe mobile devices. So this is really important now that we have so many mobile devices on our networks or in our user base, right? So we got a lot. Again, if you see all the yellow here, I tried to make all of the defined variables yellow so we can see them a little easier when we're walking through these. But the information system purges or wipes information from. So then we had an assignment. What are the mobile devices we're talking about? Be fairly easy to say. Initially, we have to say probably, organizationally issued mobile devices, probably a good place to start. We probably don't want to wipe personal mobile devices. That could get us in trouble. But if there's a risk profile for that and we work it out, maybe we're paying for people's mobile devices, their personal mobile devices. Maybe we're doing a stipend or something like that. Maybe there's a reason we can wipe them. But we really need to think about what information systems we're purging or wiping information from. So we're going to define that. What are the mobile devices that we're going to purge or wipe? Based on, and then we're going to have another assignment, organizationally defined purging, wiping requirements and techniques. Based on, system notification. Maybe that's what we're going to say. The system notifies us that after the number of defined consecutive unsuccessful logon attempts. So really we're going here to zero in how many times does an end user with a mobile device put a bad login in, say, their cell phone before the organization wipes that device, right? And here a lot of organizations are going to say something like 10, right? So the technique we're going to use, maybe we're using our mobile device management, right? So now we go back through, and we'll say the information system purges or wipes information from organizationally issued mobile devices based on notification from our mobile device management after 10 consecutive unsuccessful logon attempts. Now we've got AC2 defined here, right? So this control enhancement applies only to mobile devices for which logon occurs. And some of the examples here: personal digital assistants, smartphones and tablets. The logon to the mobile device, not any one account on the device. Therefore, successful logons to any account on the mobile device resets the unsuccessful logon count to 0. That means if we're trying to log, if there's multiple accounts on a cell phone or some type of mobile device, if I log on 9 times with my account and then somebody else logs on once, then it resets that count to 0, because we're talking about the device, not the account, right? Organizations define information to be purged, wiped carefully in order to avoid purging data, which may result in the devices becoming unusable. Purging, wiping may be unnecessary if the information on the device is protected with sufficiently strong encryption mechanism. So we're saying a lot of times we're going to create a container or a protected area where our data goes, and maybe that's the only information we're wiping, right? We want to make sure we don't wipe operating system components or things like that are going to make it so that the device can't be used. And then the caveat here is, wiping or purging may not be necessary. So it's giving us a way to get not around the control, but to enforce the control, or have another method say that if this control cannot be implemented, then we can say if we use sufficiently strong encryption, we might not have to have the ability to purge or wipe the device. So maybe we have this as a requirement in our control set, and we know we can't do it because we don't have the technology, but maybe we do have the technology to sufficiently encrypt that device. So that may be a way that we can supplement this control. Say we can't put it in place. This is related to AC-19, MP5, MP6, and SC13. So if you need to reinforce this control, you can obviously look at those related controls as well. I'm going to go over to the side here. Yeah. So where do we implement this control? This is the AC or access control family. Probably the first one we've seen that's a P2. So implement P2 security controls after the implementation of P1 controls. We know that that's not a categorization. It's not based on risk or anything. It's just based on the way we logically implement the controls. We always do the P1s first, then we do the P2s. So it's not that this is more or less critical than any of the P1s. We just know that in a project management view of things, this control would logically come after all of the P1s are done, right? This baseline allocation for this, AC7 is part of the low, moderate, and high baselines. It's part of all of them. AC7 Enhancement 2 is not part of any of the baselines. So you see, if you see there on the low, moderate, and high, it's just AC7. AC7 Enhancement 2 would be added if we have mobile devices in our environment. Then maybe we want to tailor that in. So that is the run through with the crazy Acton Stream Deck today. Kind of threw me off of AC7. Working our way, we're almost getting close to halfway through the AC or the access control family of controls. Glad you made it through this one. Little bit of a rough start, but hang in there. Maybe I just need to partake in National Wine Day this evening and get back on track. So hopefully you made it through that one. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified when these things come out. Love to hear your comments below. Tell me what you guys are doing for AC7 and how you think it is implemented correctly or incorrectly in different places you've been. Obviously, don't give us any sensitive information, but we'd love to hear what you got to say about not only AC7, but all the controls in security in general. Join us every weekday morning at the same time, 7 a.m. Eastern, for your cup of cyber. Thanks for joining me on this bit of a rough live cast, but hope you still got something out of it. I'm Jim. Be safe out there.